So it might be kind of a quick hit today. So we're going to talk about awarding renewal items. Like we talk about on these Training Tuesdays, some of these topics might be very specific, and we might go down in the weeds very quickly. But we have those people that are joining us that are new, as well as just getting some of those reminders that we might have not have talked about in a while. And anytime we get some of those questions that come in, it's always a good time to circle back and talk about a couple things. So we're going to talk about awarding renewal items, how that's important. And then also we have another session of our BidBuy practice sessions this Thursday, then our fun fact of the day and quote of the day. So kind of a short Training Tuesday this week, but I want to make sure that we talk about a couple important things and then let you guys get back to your responsibilities. Okay, so our main topic today, awarding potential renewal line items. Okay, so this is very important that any potential renewal items that could be exercised by the agency in the future are awarded at the bid tab in BidBuy, and of course are a part of the original award on the notice of award. Okay, so in order to exercise any potential renewal options in the future, they need to be awarded at the bid tab. So this amount, because you would have different renewal items, and I'm going to jump out into the BidBuy training environment and walk through this really quickly, but I just want to discuss it first. So this amount, that initial term plus any potential renewals, should match the notice of award document. So those numbers should match in the bid tab, which again, I'll show you here in just a second. In the bid tab, that number should match what's on the actual notice of award document, which should then also match once you get to the PO. There's a required field which is called notice of award amount, so that they should all match each other. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. So this doesn't mean, again, this as a reminder, it doesn't mean the agency has to renew it in the future, but if you don't award those renewal line items, you can't exercise that potential renewal option in the future. So it doesn't mean you have to renew in the future, but any future renewals cannot be exercised if they were not awarded as a part of the original notice of award. So let's go out to BidBuy into our training environment and show this. Okay, so what I did was I just created in train. We're at the point where we had submitted, we opened up the bid. So I'm going to go down to the bid tab. We see we have one quote here from Dave's Corporation. We're going to go into the items tab. So I'm just kind of walking down the job aid in the items tab. And you can see that we had 3 items created. We have the initial term, we have renewal 1 of 2, and renewal 2 of 2. Now, if I only select, let's say I'm just going to award the first line item, and then I go down and do not award these 2 renewal options, then if I save and continue, one thing that's going to happen is the system is going to let you know by using this yellow bid award validation warning that is going to say, hey, the following items are not awarded. Item number 2 and item number 3. Now, we also understand, and the system is not going to know this, sometimes you don't award all line items, right? But you do want to award and check the box for your renewal line items. Because again, if you're not, if that's not a part of the original award, most of the time, and I would venture to guess, very rarely are you not going to technically award a potential renewal option. Not to say, I mean, as you guys know, in procurement, there's always going to be those exceptions, but most of the time, you're going to be awarding all of them, and then in the future, maybe your agency chooses not to renew, and that's totally fine, right? However, that needs to be included as a part of your notice of award and within the BidBuy system. So we're kind of talking about 2 different things here. Specifically in BidBuy, it needs to be awarded because, again, as a reminder, the bid tab does interface with the PPB clearinghouse. And so that amount at this point, so let me go back, you're right, we see the error there, or not the error, the validation warning. It's a yellow warning, which means I can continue. The system isn't going to stop me, but probably what's going to happen is when this makes its way through the approval path, whoever's on the approval path, whether it's the APO or the SPO, is probably going to kick that back, or at least say, hey, are you sure you don't want to award these renewal items? Most of the time, they are going to be awarded. Okay. Um, so let's see here. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see that the number awarded. So what I want to highlight here is these numbers that are down here at the bottom. You can see that the dollar value awarded is the $150,000. Okay. You can see that the vendor, the total here is at $400,000, but the dollar value that's being awarded is 150. Okay, and again, you see that yellow validation warning up here, so it might just kind of trigger that for you. But so if the system isn't going to stop it, I could go ahead and submit for approval. It's going to allow you to do that, but again, you might end up getting disapproved. Most likely you would be, I should say, and that would have to be checked because that is something that the SPO cannot do. I can't go in and change that. And it looks like I'm missing a couple questions down here. What if the vendor no bids on the renewal? No bids on so they didn't put any pricing as a part of that renewal. You cannot award any no bid. Um, no bids cannot be awarded. So that may be a situation where to get into your specific case, I probably need to ask a few more other questions because we have seen those situations where they included the pricing as a part of their attachments, and that goes to if you have paper attachments versus what was put into a box in BidBuy, the paper attachments trumps that, and so that potentially could be corrected. But if that's not the case, if they simply just do not provide pricing for a renewal, that would not be able to be awarded. Okay. Let's see, I got another question. The amounts at time of actual renewal will most likely not match what the renewal term estimates were at award, especially if CPI or PPI is used to determine renewal amounts. So if the CPI, if your award is tied to a CPI, then yes, you're correct. That might not match. But what's not gonna be able to happen is, let's take this. This is a good example. Okay, I just used some big round numbers here. $150,000 for an initial term. The renewal 1 of 2 was awarded at $125,000, and the renewal 2 of 2 was awarded at $125,000. Now that contract is going to be based on this award. So other than being tied to a CPI, which I understand that, other than that, the vendor is not going to be able to come back and go, you know what, 3 years ago I did say the renewal was going to be $125,000. Now I think it needs to be $175,000. They are signing a contract that is for that renewal amount, and the state gets to exercise that renewal or not. So I would push back a little bit in terms of saying the amounts at the time of actual renewal do not match the renewal term estimates at award, because what's being awarded is that amount. Again, with the exception of if that renewal is tied to a CPI, I do understand that. In those cases, it could fluctuate a little bit. But again, that original contract does take into account CPI. It's not a situation where a vendor gets to provide additional pricing for a renewal 2 years down the road or something. Okay. Let's see. Also, we have to award the renewal when we do the bid tab for the renewal. Wouldn't that achieve what you're saying about interfacing with the PPB clearinghouse? Yes, but what's happening is what's being awarded at that time. You're right. You do have to do that again, but there's also the thing of running reports on awards as well as the awarded contracts to the PPB. So in your case, Allison, let's say renewal 2 of 2 doesn't end up getting exercised, but it was still awarded. So at this time, when we're making the award, that amount does need to go in there. So the big takeaway here is, and I know we're starting to get into some very specific weeds here, and that's great. I love these questions. This is real life stuff. But the big takeaway is you have to award those renewal items in order to be able to exercise any renewal options in the future. just because it was a part of the solicitation, if you don't actually award that, you're not able to exercise it in the future. Okay, so let me just kind of finish this out. Normally, you can also select award all. So you see award all there, that's an option. Or if I just clicked all the boxes, it essentially does the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that award. And then now you can see, if I scroll down, you can see the dollar amount awarded is that $400,000. Okay, so then at that point, you can just kind of continue and move forward. And I'm going to show you very quickly what that looks like. So the summary, I'll submit for approval. And the other piece that I wanted to get to was I'm actually going to convert to PO, is that notice of award amount at the PO. So I'm going to create PO real quick. So we'll end up getting a PO hyperlink that's going to go to a PO that's in progress. And I just want to show you one quick thing before we move on. So I'm not going to go through the entire processing, but I just wanted to show you the one field that is important that should match, and it's at the bottom. It is the award amount, including initial term plus renewals. So this $400,000 is the amount that is going to match the bid tab because that was awarded, but it's also going to match the actual notice of award document that's publicly posted. So if we don't publicly post that we are awarding a renewal option in the future, you can't come back later and exercise that. Okay, so I got a few more questions. Sorry, let me go back here. I think there's wording in the contract that says the renewal will be on the same basis as the initial term. Yes, you're right. Would that not allow a renewal to be awarded and we just enter a manual quote if the contract is renewed? Right, but that language in there is I see what you're saying there, but if you don't award the renewal, you can't go back and so I guess here's the point. You're not going to have a contract that has renewals in it if the renewal was not awarded. So yes, I do see your point there in that there's language in the contract regarding that, regarding the renewal, but an APO or SPO is going to catch that and say, well, you didn't award a renewal, and so you might have to. Really, what we're trying to stop here is, and just kind of steer clear and keep everybody on the same page is, you can't exercise a renewal if it wasn't awarded, and so if you don't click a couple of those boxes and actually award it in the system, it might get disapproved. And then it gets corrected and move forward. But very rarely are you going to you put out a solicitation that has renewals and then end up not actually awarding that potential renewal. And so we're just trying to steer clear of that. Let's see another question. So how will this affect current contracts that have renewal options that weren't done as you're showing? Will we be told that we can't renew? Again, it kind of comes down to that fundamental thing. If a renewal wasn't awarded, you're not going to be able to have the renewal isn't available if it wasn't awarded, right? There's a couple different ways that we can say this here. So maybe if I'm missing something here, we should circle back to it. But in terms of that weren't done as you are showing, I don't think this is a new process. I think we always, if you had potential renewal options, they needed to be awarded. But if I'm missing something, please let me know. Following up here, what I'm saying is that at the bid tab, we should be able to enter a manual quote to enter the renewal amount based on the contract language. Then we can award both the initial term and the renewal term. Yes, I see what you're saying there. Yep. You're correct, Martha. Again, it comes down to if the vendor, so I might be kind of taking two questions and putting them into one here, but if the vendor provides pricing for renewal, but for whatever reason it ends up being it was a no bid because they didn't put the pricing in the box, that can be corrected. Martha, you're correct. You would be able to go in and create a new quote on behalf of the vendor to enter that pricing. But I would argue that if the vendor did not provide that vendor, or excuse me, if the vendor did not provide renewal pricing as it was asked for prior to the bid opening, they can't provide that pricing later, I guess is my larger point there. Let's see, another question. Will a vendor be found non-responsive if they do not provide a quote for the renewal term, either paper or bid by submission? Um, Now that'd be a specific question for your SPO, but I would, on a very high level, I would say they wouldn't be found non-responsive unless there was language that spoke to that in the solicitation that you had to provide renewal pricing, but you would not be able to provide renewal pricing later. So I would just say that you wouldn't be able to award a renewal in that case if they didn't provide pricing. You can't go back later after a bid opening and say, hey, vendor A, you didn't provide vendor price or you didn't provide renewal pricing. What's your renewal pricing, right? You're not going to be able to do that. So they wouldn't be found non-responsive per se, but you wouldn't be able to award a potential renewal option in the future. Okay, great questions, good conversations. Let me know if we need any follow-up on specific situations, but of course, bring in your SPO on any types of these specific questions too. Okay, so let's go back to our slides here. Okay, so Thursday we have an optional training. So our second and third Thursdays we're calling BidBuy practice sessions. The second and third Thursday of each month, 9 o'clock. The one thing I did highlight is I'm going to extend this because the last couple I think went a little or could have gone past 10 o'clock. They originally set up from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. I'm just going to open up that window a little bit, and if we're in the middle of something, we'll just keep on going till 11. I will put a hard stop at 11, but we'll just keep it a little bit more informal. And if we need the additional help, we'll just kind of go past 10 o'clock. So just opening that up a little bit, and it will be a little bit longer. We're just going to allow users to walk through examples. We'll with me on the call, and our procurement training specialist Derek will be on there as well. Share screens. Again, this is the very similar to what we've done in the last couple months, and I think it's been well received, and we can dig into some specific questions that we weren't able to talk about on that monthly training. This doesn't affect the monthly training at all, and you don't have to attend the training previously, right? You don't have to have attended the monthly training the day before in order to show up on one of these. However, you do need to have attended one of the trainings maybe over the last couple months, or I shouldn't even say that. If you have access to BidBuy and you have attended a training, a monthly training, you can join these practice sessions. This is really for you to be able to walk through examples on your own in the training environment with a little help. It's almost like if we were in a computer lab, you know, I'm walking around looking over people's shoulders. So that's really all it is. And links are in the training center there. So if I click that link, it's going to take me to the training center on the CPOGS website. You'll click the WebEx link. Unfortunately, they are different. So the second and third Thursday of each month, it is a different link, but it's on the website there. All right, and then we have the links here for where do we find our training Tuesday and those monthly BidBuy training links. You have some links there that I just leave that slide up each week. So our fun fact of the day, what do Miss Piggy and Yoda have in common? They're both voiced by Frank Oz. So if you didn't realize that, now think about it, or next time you listen to Miss Piggy or Yoda, it's that same voice. And then our quote of the day, economist and former African Development Bank President Donald Kaberuka on focusing on what really matters. Quote, I'm not interested in whether the glass is half empty or half full. I'm interested in figuring out how to fill the glass. I love that. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your Tuesday. And then if we have any other specific questions regarding that awarding renewal options in your bid tab, please let me know, or your SPO. Thanks, everybody. This will be posted per usual, and I'll send out the slides to everybody. Thanks again. Bye.